We're in September now, which means that summer is drawing to a close and it's time to return to school for likely quite a lot of you. This is actually the first time that I haven't had to go back to school since I recently graduated from college in the spring. I may be smiling in this photo, but I assure you this is the face of a man that has seen war. And while yes, it is nice not to have to go back, I'm still struggling to acclimate to this new lifestyle of setting a schedule for myself that doesn't involve this tiresome rinse and repeat cycle that school has so deeply ingrained within me. And that's why I loved summer so much as a kid, as it meant some temporary freedom and possibility for adventure. But I'm going to be real here. Unless my family and I were going on vacation or my parents signed me up for Little League, I spent most of the time that I had indoors playing video games or watching TV. I was, by every definition of the word, an indoor child. And like so many other indoor children of the early 2000s, I spent a lot of time watching Disney Channel, as well as Toon Disney, which is now known today as Disney XD. But my interest in watching anything related to Disney Channel quickly waned as I got older. To give a rough estimate as to when exactly, it was around the time Zach and Cody's mom decided to throw them on a boat with Hooch.
You're making me nervous with all this technical talk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't we just relax? We'll turn on the radio. Would you like am or film?
Man, Hooch is crazy. My tastes in television were going through an awkward phase right along with me, so I decided I was too old for Disney Channel. But I would still watch every new Disney movie that came out. And I would also go to Disneyland multiple times a year. But I'd rather be caught dead than being seen watching, let alone enjoying, an episode of Phineas and Ferb. Stupid catchy Aglet song. Since my absence, I would occasionally hear talks on the internet of some pretty good Disney shows, although it seems to exclusively be the cartoons. Nobody has ever really told me, "Oh, hey Cameron, you like The Good Place? Well, you're gonna love Dog with a Blog." So like my channel name suggests, I'm just gonna be sticking to the cartoons, because that's what I like. So without further ado, let's get into the very first show on my list. This is Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls was created by Alex Hirsch, who is also known for his work on shows such as Fish Hooks and The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, the latter of which aired on Cartoon Network and not Disney Channel, which makes a lot of sense if you've ever seen Flapjack before.
To get the bugs out of your hair.
But over the course of his creative career, Hirsch has developed a certain style that has blossomed into the beautiful yet equally disturbing flower that we know as Gravity Falls. The main characters of the show are Dipper and Mabel Pines, two twins who are sent by their parents to go and spend the summer with their great uncle Stan, or better known as Grunkle Stan. Stan runs a skeevy little tourist trap called the Mystery Shack, where he has two likely underpaid employees to help him out, Seuss and Wendy. Now on the surface, the Mystery Shack is your typical low-budget museum of the weird. But as the series progresses, we start to find out that there is more going on here than initially let on. In a very Springfieldian fashion, the small town of Gravity Falls and the surrounding forest are home to a large and wacky ensemble of characters who land anywhere on a scale between hilarious and straight-up eldritch abomination. My personal favorite characters are Tyler Cupicker, Grenda,
Go wild! Tonight's our night!
and Blendon Blandon, who by the way is basically just a reskin of Morty from Rick and Morty.
I'm gonna keep stammering until you find them. I want to be a gardener.
Now normally when it comes to having such a large cast of characters in a show that is relatively short compared to other animated series in the West, it can feel like juggling chainsaws in order to give them all distinct personalities and an adequate amount of screen time for the viewer to feel like they understand the character. And while sure, characters like Pacific and Northwest have much more screen time and characterization than say, I don't know, Manly Dan, I still manage to care about the more one-note characters since they're just so damn charming. I'm honestly shocked at how much life the small town has and how much I care about all of the characters that inhabit it, especially when you take into consideration that the series has only 40 episodes. So how does Alex Hirsch pull this off? Well, taking a look back on both seasons of the show, which each consist of 20 episodes, both seasons seem to have a distinct tone that differs from the other, and yet there is still a clear and consistent through line for the entire series. But despite this shift, it is the characters who act as the glue that holds this show together, specifically our two protagonists and the dynamic that they share with one another. It's obvious that both Dipper and Mabel's personalities have a certain duality with one another, which is recognized and appreciated immediately. It's a nice breath of fresh air in comparison to the tired out trope of twins having what is essentially the exact same personality, kind of like Phil and Lil in Rugrats. By the way, check out my Rugrats video if you haven't already. Dipper is the anxious bookworm type, yet brave when he needs to be. His inquisitive nature drives the story forward as we slowly watch him unravel the mystery of the journals. From that description alone, you probably just think that Dipper's a nerd. Yeah, you're not wrong, but his whole character isn't just centered around him being a nerd. In fact, Dipper is still very much a 12-year-old boy. There's a few important aspects to his character that are worth mentioning. The first being that he has a massive crush on Wendy. She's a few years older than him and hangs out with a pretty rowdy group of other teenagers. But that doesn't stop Dipper from trying to convince her that he's not just a cool guy to hang out with, but also more mature than he actually is. But at the same time, there is no getting around the fact that Dipper's a scrawny kid, which he's noticeably very insecure about. This makes him a bit of an easy target to a lot of characters, making him into a bit of a verbal punching bag from Grunkle Stan and other characters like Robbie. He's got a good heart, but his constant desire for the approval of others often gets in the way of his own morality, which is pretty common among a lot of kids that are on the cusp of becoming teenagers. Then, we have Mabel, who is, well, we love Mabel. She acts a lot more kiddish in comparison to her twin brother, and she has a tendency to see a lot of the world through rose-colored glasses. In a kids show, this is totally fine and kind of to be expected, but these kinds of characters can get tired out and annoying rather quickly if not too careful. Sure, she's still that hyper-aggressive girl who loves rainbows, unicorns, and boy bands, but whenever she makes a mistake or has some lapse in judgment, it doesn't take that long for her to own up to it and make amends. Her natural instinct is to always help her friends and family, which doesn't exactly go well every time, but it helps drive the action forward in a lot of good ways. If this show were a car, Dipper's the engine, but Mabel is the fuel. But now it's time to talk about what I truly love about Gravity Falls. As you can tell, Dipper and Mabel are pretty weird, but they're weird in a realistic way. And as a result of that, they naturally gravitate to other weird things. They bring real weirdness to a town that blurs the lines so greatly on what real actually constitutes. A fish out of water plot structure is rather standard and simple when broken down to its core elements. Main characters get taken to a new place, they have to adapt to the way things are, they become different people because of it and grow to love the new pond that they floundered into. But what Hirsch has done here feels a bit different. Sure, we're getting that plot structure a bit, but that's aided significantly by fusing it with another. And what is that? Well, I'm glad you asked, because the answer to that is simple. 'Cause it's summertime, baby!
This is Grenda time!
When you're a kid, there comes a certain expectation with summer. It's a magical time when the confines of organized education no longer bind us and we're free to do whatever we please. The possibilities of what could happen seem to be infinite, and Dipper and Mabel both embrace that concept to the fullest, leading them into all kinds of adventures, which usually culminates in learning a valuable life lesson at the end. It is kind of surprising how quickly they both seem to accept the weirdness of Gravity Falls, but like I said, they are just a different brand of weird, so neither of them really want whatever a normal summer is. I'm not sure whether this falls under the category of compliment or complaint, but I seriously wish that this show was longer than it actually is. The amount of praise that Gravity Falls received from both fans and critics alike was loud and clear, so I was expecting to have roughly 60 episodes or more to watch. I honestly thought that Google was pulling a fast one on me for a second, as 40 episodes is relatively rare for such a successful and critically acclaimed animated series. Imagine if, let's say for example, Avatar: The Last Airbender, which had 61 episodes, had to wrap up its story in 40. It's not the easiest thing to do, but damned if Gravity Falls didn't pull it off. Naturally, I prefer quality over quantity, so I was genuinely kind of excited to see how well the show was going to wrap itself up, as more and more recurring subplots were being piled on. And while, yes, they pretty much answered all of the most important questions that I had, I still felt like Hirsch left the proverbial curiosity door door open in a lot of ways. I want to see more of this universe and the characters that inhabit it. And before you tell me all about the comics and shorts, those unfortunately don't scratch the same itch for me. I just want more episodes. And I know that that can be interpreted as very selfish on my part, but in a way, I kind of feel like this is sort of the feeling that was intended for the series' conclusion. Gravity Falls is the epitome of summer and everything magical that comes along with it. Once summer is over, we feel melancholic about having to throw ourselves back into the mundane and predictable routine of going to school, doing homework, pretty much everything that is expected of us. Which is why we romanticize the idea of this season in our heads all year long. Meeting our one true love, exploring uncharted territory, and creating memories that will last a lifetime. Gravity Falls may not exist in real life, but you'll never know what might be out there unless you go looking for it, and that's what this show encourages. For you to venture out into the world and have extraordinary experiences. And sure, sometimes it can be a bit scary, and it can possibly change the way you view both the world and yourself. But this is how we grow as people. We can't stay kids forever, and summer can't last forever either. But that doesn't mean that it's the end, because with every ending, there's a new beginning right around the corner. So with what little time remains of summer, I highly recommend giving Gravity Falls a watch. Or you could be a loser and go outside to get some of that sweet vitamin D I keep hearing about. Maybe you'll actually enjoy yourself out there. Or maybe you'll run into some desperate gnomes that'll kidnap you and force you to marry them. The choice is yours. A-G-L-E-T, Aglet, don't forget it. A-G-L-E-T, Aglet, don't forget it. We're gonna tie the world together. Aglet, don't forget it. One word at a time. Did I do it right?